What is your top tip if you've logged on to UCAS this morning, you've been to university, and you didn't get your first choice, you didn't get your reserve choice, and you're now thinking of going through clearing?
Well, the top tip really is to just bear in mind that there are still an enormous number of opportunities available. We're seeing around about 27,000 courses available in clearing, so all is most definitely not lost. We would really recommend that students take that deep breath, go and do some research, maybe revisit one of your original five choices. We see a lot of students doing that, and start to just compile a list of opportunities that would interest you as an alternative.
Tracy, the same question to you, really. You've got bad news on your phone. Um, what is your first step? What is your top tip?
Well, I largely agree with Kim, actually. I think taking that deep breath is really important, and really think about where you want to study and what you want to study. And then have a look around, see what's out there in terms of the offers that are being made by a number of different universities. And remember as well that clearing isn't just for those that have missed their grades. It might be that you have done much better than you anticipated and you want to rethink about where you can get into now. You might have rethought where you wanted to go to university or what you want to study anyway, or you might have done so well in your exams that you weren't expecting to, and actually now is the first time that you're considering going to university. For any of those groups, clearing is a great opportunity, and Kim's right, there's lots of opportunity out there.
Yeah, lots of opportunity, lots of vacancies. We'll go into that in a bit more depth in just a minute. First of all, I want to ask both of you, if you didn't make the grades for your first choice, is there any point you've had the confirmation that you haven't been accepted on your place? Is there any point calling that university and basically begging them to reconsider? Kim, if I can start with you.
Sure. Well, really, it does depend on whether there's any information that is important in terms of your application that the university or college won't have seen yet. Universities and colleges do get those results a little bit in advance so that they can get ahead and make those decisions, so that students are waking up with answers on their applications as well as their grades. So most of the information will already have been taken into account. But maybe there is something that a personal circumstance or something that hasn't been disclosed. In those situations, it might be worth just giving them a call and making sure that they're aware of that and whether there's any opportunity to reconsider that decision.
And Tracy, if you are considering making that call, have you got any advice for how to sell yourself? Obviously, what Kim's just said is really invaluable in terms of if there's something that the university perhaps didn't know about, you could tell them. But in a kind of more positive way, is there any kind of hints for how these 18-year-olds, these students, these young people should be saying, please reconsider, please take me, despite the fact I've just missed out on my grade?
So I think obviously whether there has been any change in your circumstances over the course of the last few months since you accepted your provisional offer from your university. So maybe there's been some work experience, maybe there's been some other area of activity that you've engaged with that might fit you better for that course. As Kim said, if there's any additional information. I think there's also, I would really urge students or applicants not to leap to an assumption. Check your UCAS account, because if you've just missed your grades, you may still have been accepted by your first or second choice university. So that taking a deep breath is really important. But just think about yourself as a whole person. What universities are looking for are students who have the ability to succeed. And part of that, of course, is your academic grades, but it's also about what you bring to university more generally as well. So that those broader experiential points, I think, are also important.
Thank you, Tracy. And Kim, is time of the essence right now? Are the clearing vacancies given out on a first come, first served basis on this day?
Time can be of the essence, particularly if you are interested in some of the most competitive courses out there. So, for example, if you're looking to secure a place for something like medicine, then there aren't as many places available. So it is important to make sure you're making those phone calls reasonably quickly. But for the majority of courses, the ability to actually lock in that choice from a university doesn't open on UCAS Hub until 1 o'clock on results day. So there is a little bit of time to phone round and to consider options before you confirm confirm that final decision. And of course, clearing is actually open for the next month or so. So even if today doesn't end up with a place for a student, or maybe it's a place that they want to change, there will still be a really good number of courses available in the coming weeks.
Tracey, at Leeds Beckett, what does it mean if you're going through clearing? And as you say, you could be going through clearing because your grades were better than expected, and now you've decided to change your university or go to university in the first place. What does it mean, however you got there, for accommodation? Because obviously, to use Kim's phrase of being locked in, if you got your first choice, you've also locked in your accommodation. But are you starting from scratch now? Could you end up not having somewhere to live in that first year?
No, I mean, we always keep a proportion of our accommodation back so that we have accommodation to offer to those applicants that come through the clearing offer. Traditionally, Leeds Beckett has recruited in clearing, so we're very, very used to being able to not only provide some of those practical support elements, so accommodation and so on and so forth, but we're also very used to, at the point at which those students join us at the university, making sure there's the emotional, practical, academic support to help people settle in quickly, because we know that settling in process, however you have made your way through that application process, whether you've come in through what we call main scheme, which is not clearing, or clearing, that we're then looking at the capabilities and the needs of all of those students as they arrive at university to make sure they have a really successful landing and are able to start studying. And that really sets them up then for being able to be successful academics during the course of their academic career with us.
How do you, Kim, go about choosing a course through clearing? Because you may have been the sort of person that had done loads of research, whether it's through reading or through open days, through speaking to students about a city, a town, a university, an establishment, and also the course. And now there is a temptation potentially to panic buy. So how can you make sure that you get a right fit if you're going through clearing?
Well, as I sort of said earlier, what we do tend to see, which is really interesting, is around 50% of students who did use clearing last year return to one of their original 5 choices. So it's really showing us that students do value that lengthy research that they're doing in advance and are choosing to go back to those options that they did know quite a lot about. So we are seeing some quite savvy behaviour from students in that sense. We also know that a lot of students that use clearing will have been researching before today. So even if it's not one of those 5, they have started to look at exactly those things that you talked about, the nature of the course, the location of the university. So they're building that sort of shortlist in their minds ahead of the day, so that when they've got the final outcomes of their original applications, they've got their grades on the table, they can assess all of those things with a bit of knowledge behind them and make the decision. Ultimately, there's no textbook right or wrong. It's about making the choice that is right for the student, and everybody's list of priorities is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, sure. And Tracey, the stakes are much higher, aren't they, nowadays, in comparison to when we went into higher education, simply because of the cost and the debt. So it's really crucial to make the right choice as an individual, isn't it?
I think I'm really glad that you've asked that question, Nina, because I think it's very easy for us to talk about the cost of university, and I just wanted to emphasise that the fees, your education, your tuition fees, are something that you pay back when you're earning your salary as a professional person. So that's I know that the fees have gone up this year for students, but in a way that's something that is going to be, if you like, a tax on their earnings in the future. The area where we know that applicants are more concerned are around the maintenance costs. So how much it's going to cost them to live week to week at university. And it would be really, I think, one of the biggest changes that would make a massive difference in terms of equal opportunities would be for the government to reintroduce maintenance grants that aren't paid back by the lowest earning families of students that come to university. But we have maintenance loans at the moment, but nonetheless, what we're seeing at Beckett is a higher proportion of students choosing to live at home so they can manage those living costs in order that they can still attend university. And we've done some research looking at about 1,000 UK students, university students at present, and 50% of those reported that they were living at home during their studies. So that could be either all 3 years, or it could be, a year at home and a year in halls, or whatever. So that's increased significantly. We've seen exactly the same. And I think what's really important is that we understand as universities how that student experience is changing.
Yeah.
We look at our tables, we look at the support that we're making available. We even think about the way in which we offer accommodation, for example, so maybe more on a hotel type offer. But that change, so that ability to go to university is still attainable, is a decision that the students are making themselves. And therefore, it's up to us as universities to be able to adapt to that and make sure that we support that choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds really kind of positive in terms of that adaptation to the way that many students are approaching or having to approach university right now. Look, this is a great day for many thousands of people who are now beginning their next adventure. For those who aren't, for those who are waking up to the headlines that the results are better this year and more students than ever for various reasons are getting their first choice places, that can be really, really hard in terms of those that didn't make the grade and haven't got those places. So I just want to end on advice from both of you. If I can start with you, Kim, to talk about the tip to get into your head and to your parents' head that this day, those results don't have to define you. If you've got an ambition, a dream, a passion, you can get there eventually if it's just not the most straightforward way. Kim, what would you like to say to that?
I would like to say that all students, regardless of the outcomes of their applications and their grades, they should be really, really pleased and proud of their achievements. We are still seeing cohorts that have had their secondary education affected by things like lockdown. So to find themselves today having completed those courses is in and of itself an achievement. They should never lose sight of that. As we've talked about, there are still opportunities. So there are alternative courses and pathways still available through clearing. There's always the opportunity of taking a gap year. So just pausing that process, taking stock and thinking about, maybe a reapplication in another year or another pathway, such as an apprenticeship. So there are always options available, and they should still feel really, really both proud of what they've achieved so far and excited about the opportunities to come.
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it, for everybody, bosses included in the future, to remember this generation. These guys are still the COVID cohort. Tracey, a final thought from yourself on this, that giving those teenagers who haven't made the great grade today the hope for the future.
Well, I absolutely agree with Kim. First of all, to have gone through the process of A-levels or whatever your qualifications are is a huge achievement, and nobody can take that away from you. Irrespective, it may feel disappointing today, but long term, those are badges that you can wear for the rest of your life. In terms of your decision about university, taking a breath is really important. Don't feel as though you need to jump to a decision in the heat of the moment. Make sure that everything feels right for you. You are committing to being part of a community for at least 3 years, and therefore making sure that everything aligns, that not just the course, but the support that can be offered to you by the university through those 3 years, that the area is going to work right for you, that are you going to live at home? Have you changed your mind about that? Make sure that all of those elements work for you, because the happier you are with the choice, the more successful you will be in your academic career.
Absolutely. Tracey, thank you. Kim, thank you. And for more coverage of today's results, head to itv.com/news. Until our next quick briefing, thanks for joining us and goodbye.